Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 52 of season 2 of Be With Me. We're going to consider a passage today which I find just a bit disturbing. We're in the context of the arm of the Lord, the activity of the Lord being revealed. So God's activity is being seen on the earth. The signs of his activity, which equals his glory, has come to the earth. And then we see what people do with it. Some people are becoming hard-hearted. But then we find a group of believers who we find in an unexpected place. This is in John chapter 12, just 2 verses today. And it says, "Nevertheless, many, even of the authorities, believed in him. But for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so that they would not be put out of the synagogue. For they loved the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God." Let me read that again. This is John 12, 42 and 43. "Nevertheless, many of the authorities believed in him, but for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so that they would not be put out of the synagogue. For they loved the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God." So this is a little bit disturbing in the sense that these are believers. So a lot in the New Testament, there's a bunch of knuckleheads, non-believers, and we kind of shake our finger at them and say, well, I'm glad I'm not like that guy. Well, he tells us right at the beginning of this guy is us if you're a believer. And it says that there were many of them and that they were believers. And then we find two things we find something that they're afraid of, and then we find something that they love. And I'm going to capitalize on the love part about it because we've heard about the fear in other places. So these guys are authorities. And what that means is they are people who have some sort of eminence in a ruling capacity. So God has made hierarchies, and they apparently value this position that they are put in very highly. And this is a result in behavior changes where they believe in Jesus, which is all great, but then the part of the behavior change that the loving the authority part happens is they don't confess it. So one of the practices in Christianity is we typically practice believer's baptism. That is, a person exists in a while in a non-believing state, and then at a certain point in their life, they elect and believe and choose the Lord, obviously with his help, and then one makes it public in baptism. So certainly if you are a believer and you are listening to this and you have not been baptized, certainly this would be a call for that. But anyway, let's press on. So let's capitalize on what these authorities know. They understand that if you confess Jesus, that things cannot be the same, that there are consequences relationally. For example, who you can date and divorce practices and those things change. Your religious activities change, what church you attend, how you worship. Financially, things change. With the change of heart is supposed to come to change in treasure and a change in where you give money. So there's all kinds of, any category you can think of, things change when you become a believer. And then there's a math equation in here, which I always love math equations in the Bible. For they loved the glory that comes from man more than, so you got the big fish facing to the left there, if you're making a math sentence, more than the glory that comes from God. So they're valuing the fame and the honor, the glory, the splendor, the shininess, if you will, that can come from man more than the glory that comes from God. I mean, when you break it down like this, it's it's just horrible what's going on. You're devaluing the things that only God can do. What about your sin problem? What about your death problem? Well, I got something I like more than that. I value and cherish and am attached to my eminence at my church, maybe, or I'm a singer at my church and I get a lot of props for that, or I have a position at church that makes others think highly of me or something. So let's drill down and get some homework here today. First of all, we are to be confessors. He wants people to publicly acknowledge him. So that's something. The thing that's really disturbing in this is the valuing the pleasure of God less than the pleasure of man. And these are believers. So this thing about, hey, just believe and you'll have no more problems. No, when you become a believer, you have problems. You've got to still assess and make standards. And let's assess this thing today, which is the most disturbing thing, is that this was a group of people that their desire for human commendation was higher than their pleasure, higher than the value they got out of the pleasure of godly commendation. So first he wants people to make faith public, but we got to get the sparkles right. Are we after the sparkles of man or the sparkles of God? So if you have a crown, and this is literally done in the book of Revelation, if you've got a crown, a sparkly thing from man, what do they do in the book of Revelation? Revelations 4:10. They cast it down. You've heard the music group, Casting Crowns. If you've got a crown, then cast it down. But then there's an eminence thing here. If you've got a throne or a position, and specifically I think it's even challenging us, as if that position is at church, fall on your face, cast the position down, worship the Lord only. Only you, Lord. Only you. Let this not be us in the church that love the glory of man more than the glory that comes from God. Oh, Lord, we are so sorry that we get this wrong. Let's reset today. Thanks for listening.